Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is the little experiment that we started in the middle of the video called the Massive Repot. And basically it's old media that's come out of pots, several pots. It was stirred up to get a mix basically. There's a mixture of sphagnum and mainly small bark in there that came out of pots during the repot process. So this is old media. The idea being we check what's in it. Now in theory, old media that's breaking down and starting to go a bit acidic and stale stays wet longer than it would do normally. The roots that are in that sort of media are not working properly. As a consequence, the media stays wet longer than it should, and the roots start to cease their function. So any feed that goes in that pot is liable to hang around and not get used as much as it should do. So I'm expecting a reasonable TDS reading. I hope it's not through the roof. I'm happy with that. That's a TDS of 34. Now my RO water, when it goes in the pot as a flush, goes in at a TDS of 9, maybe 10. And I would expect, if I was flushing, a little bit of runoff. Yeah? But at a level of 34, I'm more than happy that the media is not storing excessive amounts of feed. Brain's gone. It's getting late in the day now. I really need food. This should be tea time, not messing time. Right, but what I am very interested in is the pH. And I suspect this is going to be low. How low? We'll have to wait and see. Again, if I was flushing, the pH of my RO water would be 6.8, 6.9, 7, very, very in the middle, neutral. I suspect this is going to be quite high. Of course, I could be totally flipping wrong. Right, with the readings shooting down at a rate of knots. This has only been soaking about an hour. I'd expect this to be probably around 6, maybe even a bit lower, but it might not be. It's hovering around the 6 mark, so it wasn't a bad guess, was it? But it shouldn't be that low, should it? Still heading downwards. Well, I've already proven the point. We're down to 5.6, although it's wobbling around all over the place. It's having a job to get a stable reading out of this. It's hovering around 5.6, 5.7, which is too low. It's as simple as that. If it drops any more, it's even worse than I thought. It seems to be hovering around 5.7, but it just keeps dipping. Can't make its mind up. It's hovering between 5.6.4 or 5 and 5.7.1. Far lower than it should be. Far lower than it should be. So, I was right. The media is breaking down and turning acidic at a rate of knots. These are not good. Not good at all. So, the particular media in question is a certain batch of sphagnum moss. Remember to rinse that off when I get in the other room. So it was a certain batch of sphagnum moss and a certain batch or bag of small bark. Now that bag of small bark, I don't use a tremendous amount of it. I've got a feeling I've actually owned that bag of small bark 2 or 3 years, and I don't know how old it was when I got it. If you see what I mean, you know, when you buy a bag of bark, how fresh is it? How old is it already? Now in theory, if it's been kept dry in the bag, it shouldn't be breaking down at all. But anyway, that proves the point that the orchids in question, the media had already turned acidic, which explains why the roots were changing colour, starting to go a bit brown. They'd stopped growing and new roots were failing when they hit that media. So there's your telltale signs, yeah? The other telltale sign, which I can't do for every pot when I'm watering, is to stick your nose in the pot. And if it smells a bit like mushrooms, or if you've ever been down in a damp cellar, you open the trap door or whatever, and you turn the light on and there's this dim and dingy place with cobwebs everywhere, and as you walk down there is a distinct fragrance of dampness and mould. If your media smells like that, your plant needs to come out. Not tomorrow, not I'll get round to that. It probably needs doing right now. Some things are a now thing before they get too bad. And quite honestly, from past experience, look at the muck on my nails. Better clean myself up in a minute. Roots can go down very quickly. And if you've got media that's on the blink, getting a bit fausty, on its way down, the more you pour nutrients in there, the worse you're going to make it, because the roots aren't using it anymore, are they? They're ceasing their function. The pH is totally wrong for them. So they're not absorbing the nutrients like you think they ought to be. So the plants aren't getting fed, yeah? The roots are failing. The media's going down at a rate of knots. Need I say more? And I'm guilty of it. And I know better. And I still leave things in their pots a bit too long. In this case, I've got a semi-excuse on the grounds that this media has gone over quite a bit faster than I expected. In some cases, quite a bit under 2 years. Yeah? Now, one of the ways of stopping this that I found with Oncidium types, when you repot them and their roots aren't so good, get them in the smallest pot possible, and the root percentage to media percentage is greatly increased because the pots are small. The bigger the pot, the less the roots are going to fill it, and the more the media will stay wet and hold nutrients that aren't going to get used. So smallest pot possible, and that does go down to experience, that does work. They can't stay in those tiny pots forever though. They have to come out at some point. But again, change your media before it's too late. Now, all of those pots in the Massive Repot video, none of them are too late. They've all been caught in time, although in a couple of cases just about in time. But they haven't gone too far. Some of those plants with the browning roots that have stopped growing, probably another 2 or 3 months, those roots would have started to rot and totally fail. Whereas at the moment, some of them, although they don't look so good, if they get in some fresh media, they may branch out. They may start growing again, even though the tip won't. That's gone. So there we go then. The little experiment proved the point. No massive build-up of salts in the pot, which is good. I do flush quite frequently. And a massive drop in pH in a very short space of time, with quite a reasonable volume of water. Imagine if that had been a pot that had been watered. Most of that water would have gone through. So that acidity would have got into far less water. What would be the effect of that? An even bigger drop in the pH. I class that in some cases as just in time. Watch your media. See you next time. It's all good fun, isn't it? All this playing around like this. I'll let you into... No, actually I won't. I'll do it another time. This was supposed to be a quick video. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.